Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Headliner Podcast. We're your hosts, Nicholas and Elissa, and we're here to keep you in the loop on all the things that you can do to promote your podcast. So, Elissa, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, it's a new year, Nicholas.
It is, in fact, a new year.
I think, we should probably talk about how to start a podcast here in this new year.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of in my mind, you break podcasting up to like the three phases. So you've got the pre-recording phase early in the year. Then you've got the creating phase. So that's going to, encompass the actual, hey, I press record. Oh, I need to edit, need to do all the things. And then the post-record phase, which is my personal favorite phase, which is all of the things you need to do to help market and grow that show. Mm-hmm. So that's, you can kind of break it up into those three phases, starting out with the pre-recording phase. It's got a lot of planning, a lot of grunt work to do. So if you are like, you've had the thought, I want to do this podcast, should probably start getting a little bit more specific in it. So podcasting, we know, is all about finding your niche and really honing in on your ideal audience, what you want to talk about, and also who might be interested and who might listen, as that'll kind of dictate a lot of things that you do for your show. However you script, if you're choosing to script it, topics. I mean, it really does kind of guide a lot of things just with podcasting. Yeah. So,
I mean, I feel like when you're starting a podcast, the first question you're going to ask yourself is like, hey, why do I want to have a podcast? Is it because I am a freelancer that wants to kind of talk about my expertise to show people I know my stuff? Is it because I'm in charge of a brand and we want to get awareness out about what we do and why we're different? Or is it just because you and your buddies are super funny and you want to be super funny on a microphone and people will hopefully find it super funny? I think I need to say super funny at least one more time. Super funny.
I was going to say, I'm sure we'll get it in here at least 3 more times.
Yeah.
So no worries there. Really finding that purpose in your niche. I mean, super important. I would probably say it's arguably your first step whenever you're having your podcast, or you're
sure,
going to be a podcaster. Figure out what it's about first.
Things having purposes are usually a good thing in my experience.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Unless you're Franz Kafka or something and you're just nothing has any purpose. Absurd as that's a podcast right there.
I was going to say, I'm sure there's a podcast.
Yeah, I'll get in. I'll get in on that after this is done being recorded.
Thrilled. Can't wait.
Yeah.
But then once you've kind of got that purpose, you've got your niche, you know who you're going to be talking to. There's some more technical things for podcasting that you want to figure out. So your format. So you and I, we sit here in a Zoom call. There's, probably hundreds of different tools that you could use to actually record and create that podcast. So probably right off the bat, you're going to want to figure out if, am I going to have any sort of video component? Or am I going to be just an audio purist all the way? Mm-hmm. That's going to really kind of dictate a lot of the technical side of stuff.
Yeah.
So that may influence the recording tools that you use, the editing tools, all sorts of things.
And I do think, sorry, but I do want to interject. One thing that's worth remembering is it's not about making a podcast once, unless it very explicitly is, in which case you do you seem to know what you're doing. But, if you're making a podcast, you're presumably going to make them somewhat regularly, whatever that might mean for you. So picking a format and a style that you can do consistently is important. If you can do an interview podcast and you can find someone to interview every 2 or 3 weeks, cool. But maybe if you can't, just do a solo podcast with the occasional interview, etc. If you can't always do video, start off as audio only and then just sprinkle the video in when you feel like you can handle it.
Exactly. And I think that brings up a really good point about that podcasting is not so rigid. Once you make release first episode, you're not tied to that format. Podcasting is very, any creative thing, it's very iterative. So you're going to learn what works for you. Maybe you bit off too much. Maybe you think you can take on a little bit more, all that stuff. So definitely, I recommend starting out small and then kind of building up, especially you don't want to go out, spend all this money on all this equipment, all the software that you may not necessarily need. You can sit with your little iPhone and just say hey, I'm going to record myself here.
Sure.
People do that. It works for them, works for audiences, just whatever works for you.
I'll get into this more when we talk about like the technical stuff and like some of the equipment, but you're totally right. Start small, don't bite off more than you can chew because that'll just burn you out and make you want to stop podcasting before you really started. An iPhone, a microphone, a USB mic, whatever, your Apple EarPods, if you still use them, those are fine for podcasting. Like in most cases, people are happy with that. And we'll talk about why later.
Exactly. And then before we start getting into, I would say probably your more favorite side, which is all that stuff, the technical things, in the creating phase.
What makes you say that?
Well, I don't know, Nicholas. You don't have a degree in it or anything.
Yeah.
But while you're still in that pre-record phase, you've answered the question of what your podcast is going to be about, who you're talking to, how you're going to make your show. You also want to start thinking about some of those branding elements. So again, early on, having that in that pre-recording phase, it's really going to help you kind of plan and think about stuff that goes into your podcast. So maybe things that you say, but it also just make like the actual creating of your show and the whole post-production stuff a little bit easier. So when I say establishing your brand, that's going to be kind of thinking about the touch points that really kind of show what your show is, who you are, stuff like that. So it's going to be things like show art, style and tone, names are important. Yeah. You might want to say that once or twice in your podcast. So having that ahead of time, incredibly helpful.
That is a good tip, Elissa. That for everyone listening, that's a tip from the Headliner podcast specifically. Just practicing what we're preaching for a moment.
We're very groundbreaking here.
Yeah, clearly. But no, I mean, that all makes sense. And I think like once you've gotten all of that out of the way, you're getting into the actual doing phase, the fun part, the part that Nick spent way too much money learning how to do. But no, I mean, you're in the actual production side of things. And these are where questions of equipment and software and hosting come into play. And the reason I led off with Nick spent way too much money learning how to do all of this is I love my education. I kiss my diploma once a week for good luck. But most of it, you can just wing. Honestly, you can just wing it most of the time. We were talking about cell phones as your like chief recording device. And it's true. All you need to have a podcast these days is a relatively modern cell phone. You can record an interview on it. You can record phone calls on it. You can edit everything on GarageBand on it if you wanted to. You can do an entire podcast from an iPhone, iPad, whatever Android phone of your choice is. Likewise with microphones, yeah, you can use a good microphone. You can spend the money on an audio interface and a condenser mic like I did, or you could just use cheap Apple headphones because, and this is like a pro tip in general, a $20 pair of wired Apple headphones are insanely good and their mic punches way above what you'd expect them to. So use it. It's right there. You probably have it in like a drawer somewhere in your house. Go ahead and record. Likewise, on the software side of things, nothing to worry about. You can use Audacity. It's free. You can use GarageBand, also free. You can go and get fancier things. And depending on the type of show you decide to make, you might. But, a podcast is usually a conversational format. So all you need to do is like have something where you can edit a conversation down and remove pauses or adjust levels, which any off-the-shelf audio editor will allow you to do. So yeah, wasn't that easy and painless? And then hosting is the same thing. You're looking for a podcast host. So long as it hosts your podcast, I think it's done its job.
Exactly. And there's different like plans you can do within host and everything, but you basic is fine. You're starting out, just figure it out and then as you progress, then you can start to add on all of the doodads and stuff.
Thank you for sweeping in to help me. No, obviously, if you find you're really enjoying your podcast and you feel like, okay, I've gotten my bearings, it's time to upgrade. Yeah, you can learn about mixing audio and you can learn what, all the different podcast hosts offer over each other that's unique. And there's a lot. There is admittedly a lot. But for most podcasters, just getting a podcast made and released on a cadence of some kind is like more important than anything.
Exactly. And there is, kind of in the podcasting world, everybody knows about like the the rule of 10, like if you publish more than 10 episodes, you are probably in the top like 2% or something crazy of podcasters officially. So getting there and just like staying with it, learning and growing as you go, that's a huge milestone and accomplishment in and of itself.
Yeah. And it applies to most types of content creation. Like this isn't just a podcasting thing. Most people who have tried to make a YouTube channel burn out after like 5 or 6 videos. Or most people who try to like write a book burn out after 5 or 6 chapters. I'm really fixated on 5 and 6 as numbers today. Most people who run triathlons give up after 5 or 6 minutes. You know, the works.
Yeah.
that might be me telling on myself. I don't know.
As a runner, that mile 5, that mile 6, it does hurt you a little bit.
I said minutes, but thanks for the humble brag there.
Well, I'll tout myself.
Okay. You were just talking about how you run 1-minute miles. That's all. In 5 or 6 minutes, you've run 5 or 6 miles, exactly. Alyssa, clearly.
Exactly.
That's faster than a cheetah, but whatever, moving on.
Podcasting. So, yeah, I think, you figure out your hardware, figure out your software, however you're going to make this thing, all the things like that. Now you're kind of in that third step, maybe, that you stop pressing record and now you're like, whoo, I've got it. I need to do all these things with it. My favorite part, the post-publish phase. So this is things where you're going to think about like, oh, I have a podcast. I probably want to talk about it and let people know that I have a podcast. So you're going to need to create some form of content, probably track stuff. So traditional, podcasting metrics, they're going to be those downloads, actual how many people are listening to your show, how many people are following the show. Again, nothing insane. Your host should probably have an entire dashboard when you first log in telling you all these things. So it'll take like 5 seconds for you to very quickly figure out like, okay, this is how we're doing this week. This is how we're growing. All those lovely things. If they don't, you can get a little bit more platform specific. Spotify for creators, Apple Podcasts. If you're doing a YouTube podcast, YouTube Studio has all of this stuff really easy to find. Lots of Google it, lots of help articles to help you figure that out. And then you also want to create some sort of like a feedback loop and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think one thing worth remembering is just like in the process of releasing your podcast and starting to promote it and what have you, don't get discouraged by less than stellar results. That's just a sign that maybe your podcast hasn't found its audience yet. And maybe you need to work on SEO, or maybe if listenership doesn't carry over from episode to episode, something in the format needs to be tweaked. As long as you're putting stuff out somewhat consistently, you're able to like dynamically change what you do. That's the great thing about podcasting. And likewise, if you find like, okay, I launched my podcast and it's audio only, but it's not really doing that well, maybe shifting and trying video once or twice might help. And if you find that it's too much for you, it's trying to figure out, okay, what else can I do? Speaking of video, in the whole production side of things, we were talking, and I didn't actually mention it. So really quickly, you can make a video podcast with whatever you have. You don't need to go out and buy cameras. You can do it on Zoom. Actually, most podcasts that are video probably do it through Zoom or something, and not just like hobbyist podcasts. We're talking about like huge ones like Jon Stewart of The Daily Show has a podcast. Every episode of it is recorded on Zoom, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that, a Skype or some kind of a video conferencing app. So you keep at it. You take the feedback from your podcast being out there and you build off of it. And don't worry about the equipment, because the equipment isn't important. What's important is just like making sure you're putting something out of value to people.
Exactly. And I mean, people, they're always going to value quality over like quantity and flashiness and stuff like that. So
sure.
I think there's a statistic, and I'm probably making this number up, but I know it's high. It's in the 80s or it's in the 90s. So I'm going to go 86%. Yeah. So 86% of people, they really do value a good story over high quality production. So again, going back to that equipment, you don't need to go out and drop hundreds of dollars. If you've got technology in your home, you can probably use that to go ahead and make that podcast and get it out, tell the people, send a tweet or an X. I don't know what it's really called anymore. Blue Sky, Thread, I don't know. That
Carrier
stuff,
pigeon,
I mean, that would definitely be a different way of doing it. If you have a niche about birds and bird delivery, that'd be great. Carrier pigeons.
Yeah, exactly. I think it exactly is that. It's just, you just got to get the word out however you feel comfortable doing it, and not like, don't worry yourself into a hole over whether or not it's the greatest thing ever made. Just something being out and something being entertaining and good enough and informative. That's what matters at the end of the day.
I think if there's anything that people can take away from this episode, it's definitely going to be staying consistent and being flexible. It'll change. That's fine. You're going to learn and you're going to grow with it.
For sure. And I think one of the things, maybe you've heard this before, is like, it's not about getting a lot of listeners with podcasting. It's more about getting like the higher quality listeners specifically, just like how your content itself is more about quality over quantity. It's better to have 10 hyper engaged, plugged in listeners than 100 who like only kind of listen to your podcast for a few minutes every week. You really do want the people who are going to tweet back at you or retweet your episodes when you post them and stuff like that, because those are the people who will help get word of mouth going for your show.
Exactly. I mean, engagement is everything. Podcasting, it is a sense of community. Like you said, it's a conversation piece. So you're starting that conversation. You're hoping that other people are going to engage back and, talk to you. So that's going to be kind of just one of those things with podcasting. Just don't get discouraged. Keep with it. Ask people for feedback if you're like, this isn't doing exactly how I thought it would do. You still probably have some amount of listenership. So just literally ask people like, hey, if there's anything you want to see, email me, DM me, that kind of stuff. And you'd be really surprised, especially for the people that are invested. They probably have one or two pieces of feedback to say like, hey, I would love to see this, or I would love to hear you talk about this, that kind of stuff. So engagement really does go a long way in podcasting and content creation overall, but podcasting very specifically.
Yeah. And obviously, don't just engage with your listeners, engage with other creators. I think part of like this episode might have felt vague is like we were talking about like it's really just about doing a podcast. And it is, because like you need to build the habit and get into it. But once you've built that habit, the next place you could and probably should go is to podcasting communities. Go to, our Discord, for example, not to plug us. We probably give tips on how you can promote your podcast there and stuff like that. Likewise, go on to like the podcasting subreddits for like tips on, hey, I've been recording my podcast for a couple of weeks with my phone. I'm looking for like an introductory laptop that can handle light recording and editing. The best part about podcasting, or one of the best parts, is the fact that the community is like super inviting, and there's like little to no pretension in it. So you can literally just be like, I don't know how to use computers, but I want to produce the next like This American Life or something. And people will be like, all right, word, dude, this is what you need. And this is how you do it. And you will need a computer, but you'll figure it out.
YouTube's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, YouTube's great too. You can just like look all of this stuff up. There are a lot of creators who like almost do like vlog series on their podcast. So it's like, today I upgraded my mic and this is me testing it. And you can just learn this stuff in a really approachable, fun way.
You can listen to this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. In between bouts of me just spewing absolute word salad, there's probably a helpful nugget there. For Melissa, let's be honest.
Well, I am pretty funny. Was that the keyword that we said? Pretty funny earlier?
Something like that.
Pretty funny podcast. There we go.
Pretty funny podcast with your pretty funny friends.
Exactly.
Well, Elissa, is there anything else like a burgeoning podcaster should know?
I'm going to just harp on the being flexible and staying consistent point. That's going to kind of carry throughout the entire podcasting process. So within the actual pre-recording phase, the creating phase, and the post-recording phase, I mean, you're going to learn something as you go. Like, I know when I first started, I would be like, oh my gosh, this takes forever. And then it gets quicker over time. You learn things, or you like templatize as much as you can. Using AI tools has really personally helped me. So AI was definitely when I started doing this, AI was there, but now it's like there. So we use AI
for everyone
a lot.
Who didn't catch the distinction, that was bolded and italicized.
My hands flashed.
Yeah.
For those just listening, not watching, they were flashing. But there's a lot of AI tools out there that can really, truly help save time and offload all of those unwanted tasks. So I'd be remiss, if I didn't mention our AI tools. So we have...
I was waiting for it.
I have to do it. We are Headliner. We are a creator suite of tools empowered by a lot of AI that really do help to kind of do all those things. So we've got a transcript-based editing software. It's totally free for you to use. Removes all the ugly stuff that you may not want in your podcast. Also gets a free transcription. Goes a lot with helping with SEO, which we have a lot of content about podcast SEO. I think the last episode we did on this. So if you want to just go back one episode, I think we talk about podcast SEO. So we've got transcripts. We do have video clipping capabilities. So if you are creating a video podcast and you want that content, hey, we've got some really easy tools to help you to create that content. And then if you're an audio podcast, hey guys, we started out as an audiogram tool. So we have lots of really easy things that everybody can use that also do everything automatically for you. So
yeah,
if you're looking to be consistent and you're like, that's a lot, guess what, guys? You can still be consistent because it's automated.
I'm going to be that guy. And I'm going to remind everyone that we did AI before it was cool. Our automated podcast clips actually came out a couple of years before the whole AI boom.
Yeah, and free chat.
Yeah, there you
free
go.
Free chat GPT.
Free chat GPT AI. We had automated clip selection. You can literally make your podcast wherever you want. You don't have to use Eddie. We won't cry that much about that. And you can upload it to your RSS feed. And without even having to visit our site, you can magically get clips from your podcast sent to you. Just
upload it even to social platforms and YouTube. Yeah.
That's right.
It's easy.
Thank you for that save. That totally wasn't the layup.
Easy and free. We love those two things.
There you go.
But yeah, so that whole point was going with flexibility and consistency. Again, just still focusing on the quality over quantity. So that's going to be monetary investment. Just trying to go for volume whenever you're recording episodes. So some people are like, I'm going to do a weekly podcast. If you can do that, awesome. If you can't stay with that, don't sweat it. Monthly or bi-monthly, whatever you want is going to be just fine, especially if you are really focusing on creating good content that does provide value to your listeners.
Sure.
You're golden.
Yeah. I mean, even just thinking that through, it makes sense. Look at it from a logical point of view. Let's play that Socratic logos for a second. There is so much stuff that gets published on the internet at any given moment. I don't even remember the stat, but it's something ridiculous. Hundreds of hours per minute get uploaded to YouTube. Something ridiculous. It's more important to put something out that you're proud of and happy with than something out every week for the arbitrary reason that you said you would do it every week, because that makes you stand out to whoever does watch or listen to your content. So, it helps you cut through the noise a little bit, literally, audio pun, because podcasts.
And I mean, that's a proven thing. Movies do it. So you'll see the sequels. It goes years in between it. I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend going years between your first and your second podcast episode. If that's you, you do you. But, if you have a following, if you have listeners that they're willing to wait, you can do stuff in between, post clips or whatever. Just quality over quantity, super important in podcasting.
You don't have, exactly. You don't have to go radio silent between your episodes. You can react to stuff and you can, foster your community a little bit. If you have, what was the example you came up with? A bird watching podcast?
I don't know. It was something with birds. There's a carrier pigeon.
Well, you could post a different picture of a bird every Friday and call it Bird Fridays. And people will be like, oh, cool. It's Friday. It's time for a Bird Friday. But no, weird example aside, as long as you're constantly putting something out and you're engaging with your community, they will know when your podcast comes back. That's the point. You don't have to fall off the face of the earth for a year because you're recording your amazing podcast about swallows.
Exactly. So doing it, being consistent, quality, engagement, podcasting, 4 steps. There's obviously more things in between there, but that's what it boils down to in the very end.
You did forget the most important one, which is having fun, guys. Let's just have fun.
Right.
Not to sound like the elementary school basketball coach for a second, but let's just have fun, guys.
I mean, I have so much fun doing this, so I'm like,
yeah,
second
obviously.
nature. Of course it's fun. I don't need to say that it's fun.
We're pretty funny, obviously. So, yeah. No, well, thank you, Elissa. This sounds like a really great primer for people who might have been thinking about getting into podcasting and just felt overwhelmed, because it is overwhelming. There is so much to talk about. And hopefully our kind of like surface level discussion of it just like took the edge off a little bit, made them go, oh yeah, I do have like this thing in my pocket with a better camera and microphone than like anyone in the world had 50 years ago. How about that? Let's go make a podcast.
Or even maybe we encourage you. You're like, wow, these 2 goons, they're able to put a podcast together. I can definitely do that.
Yeah.
So maybe we inspired you.
Whichever way it goes, we did our job. Cool. Well, thanks again, Elissa. Hopefully everyone listening got something out of this, and we'll be back soon with more tips on podcasting and all the fun things podcasters could podcast with. Once more for effect, podcast. And yeah, bye.